All right, I need you guys to do me a favor. I just got into this really heated debate on Twitter, and I want you guys to comment down below if you're listening to this episode of the podcast on YouTube if I'm wrong. Let me know if I'm tripping. So, the NFL posted a video about Lamar Jackson's promise to deliver the Baltimore Ravens a Super Bowl, right? Now, somebody replies and he says, if you can't get them a Super Bowl in the next 3 years, then dude, I'm sorry, but trade you or something, because I'm not going to waste my time or money, dude, because even Burrow and Hurts have made it farther than you. And then this guy T Forrest replies, right now, whose career would you rather have? Lamar's or Burrow? And Pickett to Pickens season replies, shout out to my fellow Steeler brethren out there. He says Burrow by a landslide, which I agree with. And T Forrest replies and says, teaches on, but if I was asked personally, if I'd rather be an MVP and be voted the number one player by players in all of the NFL, all while having a mid-team around me, or get to the Super Bowl with potential Hall of Famers and lose, I don't know. I think the former is where I'll go, but again, teaches on. And then I responded, because I got to give my 2 cents, because this is Twitter. Everybody has a right to opinion, right? I said, I'd rather be known as the QB that took my team to the Super Bowl behind the worst offensive line in Super Bowl history. And then T Forrest replies, and he says, you're kidding, right? When Burrow had a terrible offensive line, it was his rookie year. In 21, bro was covered. So you know what I had to do? I had to do what any logical person would have to do to back up their claims. Go on Google and look up some information. So you know what I did? I went to my laptop, I typed in a simple sentence, right? And all I asked Google was, who was the most sacked quarterback in 2021? Oh, surprise, surprise! Joe Burrow was the most sacked quarterback in 2021, 51 times. And if you want to include his sack numbers in the postseason, he was sacked a combined total of 70 times throughout the regular season and the postseason, the year he took Cincinnati to the Super Bowl. And then I also went even a step further and posted a screenshot. Who was the most sacked quarterback in the 2021 NFL playoffs? Oh, surprise, surprise, it was Joe Burrow, who was sacked 19 times. Funny, that shouldn't really be a surprise to nobody because the dude got sacked 10 times against Tennessee. He's the only quarterback to have a playoff win despite being sacked double-digit times in a single game. And you know what they say? I say, come on, man, because come on, man, it's not hard to Google these things. It's not hard to find out this information. Like, people on Twitter just take so much pride in being wrong, right? And I'm about to show you. Pickett to Pickens season, my fellow Steelers brethren says, sacks are a QB stat. Maybe be more mobile or throw the ball faster, ? You only want to blame the line because you love throwing Burrow. Kind of weird, man. So, Pickett to Pickens says, sacks are a QB stat. If you're more mobile or you throw the ball faster, you won't get sacked as many times, which does make sense. But I had to go show him how Russell Wilson was the most sacked quarterback in the NFL during his final season in Seattle in 2020, and he was sacked 52 times. Isn't he mobile? What about Deshaun Watson? He was the 3rd most sacked quarterback that same season, and he's mobile too, isn't he? Isn't Deshaun Watson one of the best dual threat QBs in the NFL? So, you know what? They respond. I say, so how Russell Wilson was the most sacked QB in 2020, along with Deshaun Watson, plus Justin Fields and Daniel Jones were the 2 most sacked quarterbacks this past season, despite having elite mobility and athleticism. And then he responds and says, being mobile doesn't avoid sacks on his own. Brady avoided sacks by ripping defenses apart, throwing the ball within 2 seconds. Burrow holds the ball too long. I don't know why you acting like he doesn't. It's his only flaw. And then I responded and said, you got to hold the ball a long time to allow those deep passing plays to develop. Because if you're trying to take shots downfield, those deep passing plays just don't come open in 2 to 3 seconds. It takes time for deep vertical routes down the field to develop. I said you got to hold the ball long if you want to get vertical passing plays deep downfield. How are you going to convert a 3rd and long throwing a 3-yard check down? So you know what he does? He goes ahead and he posts Joe Burrow throwing a halfback swing to Samaje Perine for a touchdown and says, Joe checks down. Literally did it all season. Did you watch? Now remind you that this is being thrown on Pittsburgh's 8-yard line inside of the 10 on 2nd and goal. They're blitzing. Everybody's going upfield to block. It's pretty obvious that this is a halfback swing, right? And then I even went further to break it down for him, right? Because, you know, sometimes people just don't understand what certain plays are. This wasn't a design play where you had everybody going out for routes and Joe Burrow just threw the check down to Samaje Perine. No, this was a designed halfback swing. The halfback goes out for a swing, Joe Burrow dumps it to him, and the wide receivers block upfield. It's basically another version of a halfback screen. And I said, because that's not 3rd and long, that's 2nd and goal at the 8. And plus, that was a designed halfback swing, as you can tell, because the wide receivers are already blocking as soon as Burrow makes the throw. And then I tell him, I'm a Steelers fan too. Bet he didn't know this. Tell me where all those checkdowns got us Big Ben's final season. Our offensive line, Big Ben's final season in 2020 was so bad that Big Ben had to throw 5-yard slants and out routes and drags just to get the ball out in time. Y'all remember that? And the fact that Pittsburgh was not a threat to stretch the field allowed defenses to play up close on the line and play on those short passing routes. And then T. Forrest responds and says, got y'all to 11-0, and that Browns playoff game, man, that was just bad luck, to be honest. Yeah, it was bad luck that the Steelers lost their opening wild card round matchup to an interim head coach because Kevin Stefanski was unable to coach that game because he came down with the CVID. Okay. So y'all let me know if I'm tripping. Whose career up to this point would you rather have? Joe Burrow's or Lamar Jackson? And then answer me this. Is sacks completely a quarterback-driven stat? Like, quarterbacks do have a factor when it comes to how many times they get sacked. If they truly do hold the ball a long time or they don't have good pocket awareness. But that's not Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow played behind one of the worst offensive lines in the history of the NFL. And probably the worst offensive line to ever make the Super Bowl. But yet, this man's going to go ahead and say, oh, Joe Burrow had a good offensive line in 2021. If the offensive line was so good, how come following the Super Bowl in the offseason, they replaced nearly the whole entire offensive line? Literally, they replaced like 4 out of 5 starters. Cincinnati went into this past season with pretty much a completely new offensive line with completely new faces. I really don't understand how sacks are completely a quarterback-driven stat. I would take Joe Burrow carrying a team with a bad offensive line to the Super Bowl versus winning a MVP. MVP awards are nice and all, but they don't get you deadly squat when it comes to getting the recognition that you deserve. Nobody remembers how many times you win MVP in the NFL. Lamar Jackson won MVP in 2019, and how does that help his case? Like, you won the Super Bowl years ago. Would you rather win a Super Bowl years ago or win a MVP years ago? I'd rather win a Super Bowl ring years ago than win a MVP award years ago. MVP awards are nice accolades to have, but championships are what people remember the most. You want to know why Tom Brady is the most popular player in NFL history? Him and OBJ are maybe the two only NFL players who are known worldwide. You could go to Japan, China, Africa, and everybody know who Tom Brady and OBJ are. When you look at Joe Burrow, the fact that he's been able to take Cincinnati to back-to-back AFC Championship games and beat Patrick Mahomes in one of those and take them to the Super Bowl when nobody expected Cincinnati to make it to the Super Bowl is something that more people remember about Joe Burrow compared to Lamar Jackson winning MVP in 2019. We live in a world that asks, what have you done for me lately? Nobody gives a damn what you did 3 years ago. People care about what you did recently. Lamar Jackson won NFL MVP in 2019. Joe Burrow took the Cincinnati Bengals behind one of the worst offensive lines in the history of the NFL to a Super Bowl. And although they lost, that's pretty damn impressive. People are always going to remember Joe Burrow taking Cincinnati to the Super Bowl that year. You want to know why? Because nobody expected it. It was random as hell. Imagine me telling you before the 2021 season, oh yeah, Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals are going to make it to the Super Bowl. You probably would have laughed at me, and you probably would have been a little bit cocky. You probably been like, JT, you really think the Bengals going to make it to the Super Bowl? Put your money where your mouth is. Put your money where your mouth is, and you would have betted a lot of money, and you would have lost. Nobody knew that Cincinnati was going to be as good as what they were. That season, they lost to the Rams in the championship. More people are going to remember that decades down the road than they are Lamar Jackson winning NFL MVP in 2019. Joe Burrow changed the Cincinnati Bengals organization. Before Joe Burrow arrived in Cincy, what were the Bengals known for? Being cheap, not willing to dish out the money that it takes to compete for a Super Bowl. Joe Burrow comes along. He tears his ACL his rookie season. And what does Cincinnati start doing? They start trying to spend money to improve the team and get Joe Burrow some weapons. After they lost that Super Bowl, you know what they did? They invested a lot of money into improving the offensive line. If I had to pick which one, I'd rather be known for being the quarterback who took my team to the Super Bowl where nobody expected us to, being the ultimate Cinderella, the ultimate underdog story versus winning a NFL MVP in 2019 and being bounced out in the divisional round by the Tennessee freaking Titans, even though I went into the postseason that year as the favorite to make it out of the AFC. I'd rather be known for exceeding expectations where nobody had high expectations for me anyway versus winning an NFL MVP and not living up to the lofty expectations that I had going into that season. All throughout the whole entire year, everybody was pretty much considering the Ravens to be the best team in the NFL. And then they come off their first round bye and they get smacked around by the Tennessee Titans. And the only thing Lamar Jackson has to show for that season is winning NFL MVP. You guys let me know what you guys think. Which one would you rather have? Would you rather have Lamar Jackson's career up to this point or Joe Burrow's career up to this point?